music with my bro. Will it dig it? Yes or no? Here we go on with the show. The Hear Me Out Bro podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the second episode of the Hear Me Out Bro podcast. My name is Clark, and I'd like to introduce my brother, Erik.
Hey, everybody.
Hopefully, we didn't drive you all away with our discussion of album-oriented rock last time. Hopefully, you guys dug it.
Hopefully.
So, we're back this week with ska. We're going to get our feelings on ska, our opinions, some good discussion. And yeah, so if you want to listen along with the playlist, you can find it by searching for at HMOBP on YouTube. That'll give you the playlist. And if you subscribe, we're going to post all our weekly or episodic playlists there.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to us with any listener comments or questions, or share any of your thoughts on these kind of music, or share your experiences.
If you have suggestions.
Yeah, go ahead and reach out to us at Hear Me Out Bro Podcast, all lowercase, all one word, Hear Me Out Bro Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Did you have anything you wanted, any corrections or anything you wanted to note from our episode 1?
Yeah, just that I excluded Boston from AOR last episode because I thought they were a little too boogie woogie, not quite in the bullseye of AOR. But then the day after we recorded, I had that song "Peace of Mind" stuck in my head for like 3 days straight. And the only way to get rid of an earworm is to listen to it. And so I had to listen to it, and it was like, yeah, this is clearly AOR. I was wrong.
Yeah, they're squarely AOR, especially that song Amanda. That's
right.
Yeah, it's a radio hit.
So what about you? Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm sure there were some people like yelling at their earbuds or whatever they are listening to this on. As we were talking about Rocky, it turns out Eye of the Tiger was from Rocky 3 and not the original Rocky movie. It was from Rocky 3, which had Mr. T as his rival.
Right.
So it wasn't until 1982 that the benchmark of AOR for us, Eye of the Tiger, was released.
I pity the fool who doesn't do their research.
Yeah, a little sidebar. Sylvester Stallone wanted Another One Bites the Dust by Queen, and they turned him down to put it in the movie. He was directing the Rockies by this point. And so he reached out to Jim Paterick and team to write Eye of the Tiger. And the rest is history. The rest is podcast history. So what do we got up today? We got ska on the menu.
Got ska on the menu.
Cool. I'm looking forward to this one because I know you were really into ska for a good period of your adolescence and your younger years. And I listened to a little bit of two-tone, like, back in the 80s.
Right.
And I was really into reggae and even was like guilty of cultural misappropriation with wearing dreadlocks for a number of years, my long hair.
I remember that.
And I wasn't like one of those hippie kids that like put stuff in their hair to get dreadlocks. Like the Ross family, we have very naturally curly hair, and you have to do everything you can to avoid getting dreadlocks. And
right.
Unfortunately, I didn't do enough to avoid getting the dreadlocks.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the dreadlock thing, I went to a wedding over the weekend, and there was another guy, friend of mine, who also has a long beard, and so people were kind of joking, like, "Oh, are you guys having a beard growing competition?" I was like, "Well, it requires a lack of effort. Can you really compete at having a lack of effort?"
I think you can, because you have to have dedication to stick with the not doing anything.
Yeah, there's all the creepy guys that don't
Grow
trim
their
their fingernails.
fingernails. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was thinking of.
gross.
Yeah, you don't want to get in the
Ugh,
Guinness Book of World Records for bad hygiene.
no. So yeah, so like growing a beard, like it requires not shaving.
Right.
And so if you
It's
have
the
hair like we
default.
do, yeah, it's the default. So like if you have hair like we do, you have to like I can't brush my hair dry. I have to like do it in the shower with an afro pick and like conditioner. Otherwise it'll just thread.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, so the default is tangles, and if you let the tangles go further, you end up with dreadlocks. So
Yeah, actually what happened was I went on a camping trip and I was going to see like the Mountain Air Music Festival back in the 80s,
oh
like
yeah.
David Lindley, Santana, Grateful Dead. And it was at Lake New Melones or something. It was near there. So I was camping at the reservoir and like swimming and stuff. And didn't bring a hairbrush or a comb with me. So I was
Mhm.
like kind of camping and swimming and not being able to comb or brush my hair for like a number of days. And it was just too tangled to deal with after that. But anyways, enough details about our boring past. But anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to discuss my background with ska a little bit. Like
yeah.
I was fortunate that when I was about 20 years old, third wave ska was cresting in the United States. And so a lot of the second wave and like two-tone era bands that I grew up with that you and our sisters listened to, they were coming out of retirement and going on tour. So I got to see a bunch of those bands. And then a lot of the first wave ska bands, the bands that influenced the two-tone and second wave era, they were also coming out of retirement. And so it was like this perfect storm of like all these generations of ska bands going on tour, and it was kind of this cultural moment where I got to see a bunch of legendary artists live on stage, and got into a bunch of really awesome bands because of that. So
Cool. So we're looking at
yeah,
first wave as being Jamaican ska, the 60s, second wave
yeah,
being UK based ska bands of the 70s and 80s. And
yep,
then third wave is all bands kind of post 80s.
yeah, early '90s through the early 2000s.
Yeah. And it wasn't like the Jamaican ska didn't happen in a vacuum. Those records were being sent to the UK, to Jamaican expats and things they're being played in dance halls and on the radio there. And
Right,
so it was a popular music at the time, not just in Jamaica, just where the music was coming out of.
right. Yeah, so a lot of these songs will be familiar to people, even if you've never really listened to ska. It's like you probably heard them on a soundtrack. You probably heard them on the radio.
Yeah.
Like you probably happen along this sound somehow.
Yeah. During the 90s, it was kind of unavoidable to hear that beat in certain songs.
Yeah, there were like third wave songs as like television advertising sometimes.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
so ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Should we start the music?
Yeah. What's our first song for today?
So up first, oh yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, one of the things that's baked into ska is cover versions of songs. There was a lot of
Hmm.
influence, a lot of like cross-pollination going on back and forth between different genres of music, between different waves of ska, between different bands. And so recording another artist's song was kind of part and parcel to the whole thing.
In a lot of ways, it's kind of like the blues revival that happened in the 60s. You know, there was original, Delta blues, Chicago blues, but it really didn't take off
Right.
until the British kind of started doing their own brand of it.
Right.
And then the Americans reheard it through the Brits, and everybody covered the same songs. And
right. And so if you have ears, you've probably heard this song before, but you've probably never heard this version of it. And I'm pretty sure this is the original version of the song. So this is Rudy, A Message to You by Dandy Livingston.
cool.
Yeah. So what did you think of Rudy, A Message to You?
I really like it. Yeah, I really like it. I like the old stuff. It's just got so much character.
Yeah, me too.
It's got so much character, and it's so organic because it's not derivative of anything really. I mean, it might be derivative of something else, but it's like this is like during the birth of it all. That's
Right.
like the stuff I like. I also like just kind of the rawness of it. That just appeals to me, like the sounds.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah, but it's nice and smooth, and it's not like lo-fi or punk rock.
Right.
It's just these are ingredients, just authentic sound.
Trojan and Studio One were both kind of like the Motown of Jamaica,
Right.
in a way. Yeah. So Rudy, is Rudy a guy they're talking about, or are they talking about
girl.
Rude Boys?
No, they're talking about Rude Boys. They're talking about like the Jamaican gangster criminals, like guys that wore suits, always dressed really natty and stylish, and pork pie hats, and skinny ties, and
Yeah, they're not talking about the Notre Dame football player guy.
no.
Okay, just to clarify.
And fairly or unfairly, they were associated with a lot of violence and hooliganism, and
Yeah, there was a time of upheaval back then.
yeah,
And nobody was immune to it. All the race stuff going on, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, what did you think of Dandy Livingston's version?
I like it, and it's not like hyper fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if people by now listening to our podcast are going to tell like we're not like these hyper caffeinated like running on 11 type of people. We're
Right.
pretty laid back. So like that appeals to me. I like ska, but like to me that's about my pace right there. Just like for bobbing my head, it's on my frequency.
Right.
So I'll give this one an 89.
Nice.
Like it's cool, and I always liked the song. I liked it when the Specials did it. I like that little harmony on the Rudy that they do. It's so smooth and just it's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give it an 89 for
Okay.
for this one.
Yeah, I'll give it a 90 because it's an iconic song. Like every version of it's good. His version is just like it has that purity.
Yeah. Yeah,
I like it.
I like both versions, but like this one, I like this one. There wouldn't have been the second one without this one, but I prefer
Exactly.
this one. But they're both just great, and just
Yeah, it's an iconic
how else
song.
would we? Yeah, how else would we know about Rude Boys? So.
Exactly. Yeah, so one of my personal experiences, why I was so fortunate that when I was around 20, all these bands started coming around and ska was having a moment, was I got to see some absolute legends live on stage. And so I was really fortunate to see the next artist at Slim's, and both of them are now gone.
Oh man,
Desmond Decker and Slim's. We remember you both fondly. Oh, and the other thing is, like, when I was making the list, it was so hard to pare it down. Like, I could have had this list could have been 50 songs long, and it still wouldn't have had enough. And so to pare it down to 8, like I was shooting for 6, but it was like I have at 8. I can't get
yeah,
any smaller than this. Like it's starting to really hurt at this point. Because while I was making this playlist, I started listening to a whole bunch of stuff again, and it was like I could just pick one of the Trojan Records compilations, and it would be a worthy playlist.
yeah.
I could just have the Harder They Come soundtrack as a playlist and
Oh,
be fine with it.
absolutely.
But I wanted to cover a lot more bases and talk about a lot more stuff that's under the ska umbrella.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and so,
So if you want to do your own digging, if you dig what we're listening to today, there's plenty more out there. Just
oh yeah,
yeah,
like
dig
we
into
mentioned
it.
on the AOR episode that like it was the tip of the iceberg, and it's like it's
Yeah,
an even bigger iceberg, I think, with ska. But it's like there's so much out there, and so much of it is just absolutely phenomenal. So next up, after that long preamble, this song was featured on the Harder They Come soundtrack. This is 007 Shantytown by Desmond Decker. Yeah.
I
So
love that one.
007 by Desmond Decker.
Now, see, was that just called Shantytown on the soundtrack? Because I didn't
I
know
believe
it's
so.
called. I didn't know it was called 007. And I thought he was just like, just doing like doo-wop kind of stuff there, like the 007. I never knew what he was saying there, but
Right.
it makes sense now.
Yeah. And more rude boy bombing up the town, doing crime.
Yeah, the rhythms on that.
Hooliganism.
Them a loot, them a shoot, them a kill, Shantytown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah. I guess the James Bond movies were pretty popular in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Sharp dressed, hard man.
Cool.
Always gets the girl.
Yeah, when I was trying to learn some reggae drum stuff, there's like 3 different types of beats. There's the one drop. I think that first song might have been the one drop. There's the rockers. This one might be a rockers beat.
Okay.
And then is it steppers?
I think it was, yeah.
Something like that. Drummers would know. But yeah, there's like names for all these beats, like how Cuban music has names for all its beats, like
Right.
it's like Inside Baseball or whatever. But and it goes to reggae too. Reggae uses the same beats. It's just
Right.
different.
Yeah, that was
Tempo.
one of the other things I wanted to talk about was it's a spectrum from ska to reggae and even like old school dub and dubstep, like, and it's, it's cooking with the same ingredients, but it's kind of slower tempo. Maybe not. Some of the ingredients aren't as pronounced, but so like to me, ska, rocksteady, and some reggae are kind of all. It's so blurry that there's no real distinction between them. It's just kind of like, well, now it's a little too slow to actually be ska. So maybe it's reggae. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
slow rock steady.
Rocksteady. Yeah. Yeah. Like rhythmically, there's quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. There's 16 notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And one of the key characteristics of all this Jamaican stuff is that the 1 and 2 and 3. That's like your skank guitar is going to be that upstroke on the and. So
Right. Okay.
yeah. So they're playing the offbeats of the quarter notes, basically.
Okay. Yeah. So what did we think of 007 Shantytown by Desmond Decker?
This has always been one of my favorites. It just takes me back to like putting on that The Harder They Come soundtrack. I'd give it like a 92 for this one.
Yeah, I'll give it a 95 just because it's so iconic. And like Desmond Decker, he had that voice. Like nobody sounds like Desmond Decker. He's got a really unique voice.
He's one of a kind.
That song just like
so original.
Yeah.
Yeah, aside from ska, that's just a great song, like just in the world of music. That's a cool one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there.
It just happens to be a ska song.
Yeah, it's like if I didn't bring that song to the desert island, I would be trying to remember all the words to that song and singing it.
Yeah.
Out loud on the desert island, like.
Well, especially if you're on an island, you want that island feel.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll have a desert island album episode for sure.
Oh man, that's good. As painful as paring this list down. Yeah, a Desert Island 5 list for me is going to be so painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like I know as soon as we publish that episode, I'm going to be like, no, why did I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the next song is by some artists, and like part of the discussion of AOR was where did it begin? Like we mentioned that there was like before Eye of the Tiger and after Eye of the Tiger. Like where's the ground zero to a lot of music? Like there's a discussion amongst heavy metal fans of like who was the first heavy metal artist? Was it Black Sabbath? Was it somebody earlier?
Blue Cheer.
Yeah, was it the riff from Smoke on the Water? Like where did it begin?
Right.
And there's a lot of contenders. There's a lot of debatable artists for who was the first heavy metal band.
We'll definitely cover that in future episodes because proto metal is probably my favorite genre of music. I'm like seriously stuck in the 70s and late 60s. Right. So if you like that stuff, stay tuned.
Yeah, stick around because we'll also do a trad metal episode because I'm not stuck in the 70s, but I like bands that their sound is stuck in the 70s.
Yeah.
I like a lot of new bands that harken back to that.
Yeah.
To those primal ingredients. So
yeah, we'll get there, listeners.
That's just the preamble. to with ska, there's really no question that the whole sound was started by these guys. Like they formed, they started playing this rhythm, and they invented the sound without question. And so this song isn't from their earlier work. I could have included many of their earlier songs, but this was the song that got me into this band because this was on an album that came out when I was around 20 and was first getting into ska and heard these guys, and it was like, holy moly, these guys are incredible. Like, and then found out that they're, you know,
The
the
Godfathers.
founders of this genre. Yeah, the godfathers of that sound. So this isn't one of their classics. This is one of their later songs, but it is the song that got me into the band, so it has a special place in my heart. This is You're Wondering Now by the Scotalites.
Cool. I think you took me to see the Scotalites one time. Can't remember where
you're
you
right.
saw them. Maybe the Phoenix Theater or something. Yeah.
I don't know if they ever
Man, what
played
a
at the.
great band.
Maybe they played at the Phoenix.
We saw them somewhere. I remember I had a Scatolites shirt for a while till it got full of holes.
Oh yeah.
So was Guns of Navarone, was that like the first ska song?
I don't think it was the first one, but that was like the first like international. Like that was the song that kind of introduced that sound to the world. Like,
Okay.
and getting back to the like all the covers, that it's like, you know, they took the music from the movie and put it to the ska,
Yeah.
so it became an iconic song.
Put it to a beat you can play in the dance halls.
Yeah, and it's like I'd be willing to bet that more people have heard Guns of Navarone than have seen the Guns of Navarone.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to sit through a 2-hour movie or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's longer than that even. I think it's like 3 hours. You know, it's got Gregory Peck and all those guys in it. It's
Yeah,
good,
it's a good movie.
but you know,
This is not a war movie podcast.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. The cool thing about seeing them was, and it's all these like 80-year-old dudes up on stage, and oh man, they were really
Yeah.
good. I think something about this. Well, I like instrumental bands, you know, like
Yeah.
the Ventures and things like that. So I don't mind the instrumental stuff. But for me to like hear them playing like a song with vocals,
Right.
it doesn't throw me a little, but like this song itself, like even when the Specials did it, it just kind of repeats itself a little bit
Right.
too much for me. Like there's other
Right.
Satellite songs I would have liked better, but this is a good song.
Yeah, like I like the repetition. Like I like how the guitar introduces that melody,
Yeah,
and then she repeats the melody with her vocals.
right. For me, that was like too much a little bit.
Yeah.
I think also since these guys were like early originators, like the piano, like I love skank guitar. The piano for me is a little too much because there's no upbeats, there's no upstrokes on a piano. It's all downstrokes.
Right.
So like when I hear that piano, like in this one speaker, it's just a little too incessant for me.
Okay.
So I love this song. I love this song and I love the band. But like this particular one is not going to get me like the old stuff. I like the old stuff.
Right.
And these guys had the old stuff.
Yeah, the repetition, like like I was still living at mom and dad's when I first got into ska, and so the Ska Lights and some of the other bands, I would listen to them with dad, and dad was already a fan of cumbia at that point, and
Uh-huh.
so it was just like the same ingredients but cooked with different spices, like that same kind of tropical Caribbean Gulf of Mexico flavor.
Yeah.
And so, like, dad just instantly loved the Scotalites and some of these other bands, but mom
Oh, that's
hated the
cool.
repetition, like
Huh.
that ska rhythm and the guitar and probably the pianos on the Scotalites. Like, just drove her nuts. It was too,
Just too much.
yeah, dude, dink, 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 dink.
Yeah, I had a roommate that was into house music, and I would come home and I always thought somebody like left their sneakers in the dryer or something, and you just hear that boom, 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 boom. Yeah, I remember Dad going out with his radio and turning up the cumbia and like pulling weeds out in the garden and stuff, or
Yep,
just like taking a nap under the redwood tree there.
yep,
Yeah. Sometimes mom didn't like stuff just because dad did like it, but she probably honestly didn't care for ska, knowing mom.
yeah. I believe she mentioned like water torture and
Really?
and the ska rhythm in the same sentence.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because all the stuff I mentioned, uh probably give this one like a 66. 60. No, I'll give it a 67.
Okay. Yeah, I got to go higher. I got to go
Yeah, no
80
doubt.
because, well, it's not no doubt.
Well,
Uh,
see what I did there? Whoops. Freudian slip.
nice one, Dad. I got to go 80 because this is the song that got me into this band. And
Yeah.
I just love the way, like, I'm not a musician. So a lot of times instrumentals can be kind of obtuse to me, that it's like, it's
Yeah.
hard for me to, like, I don't know, develop emotions towards a song if it doesn't have vocals, like if it doesn't have that direct humanness to it. And I just love I love her voice.
More of a unfeeling robot.
It's not what I said. It's not what I meant. Uh,
I-
I just love the way her voice carries throughout the song, and I love how the Jamaican accent, like it's made for singing. Like it fits so well, and like
yeah,
it has that little
lyrical.
bit of a lilt to it, but it's not too much. It has like a clarity and like a warmth and a brightness to it that just like it
Yeah, she's
fits
got a
this music
great
so
voice.
well. Right. Yeah. So I gotta go 80.
Okay, 80. Cool. Yeah, I like singing too, but my ear, like I'm always listening to the band.
Right.
Yeah, Scatolites, the Godfathers.
Yep. Yeah, they started it all, man. All right. Next song.
Yeah. What do you got?
All right. So we already brought up the Harder They Come soundtrack and how iconic that is. And this band features heavily on the Harder They Come soundtrack. I'm sorry there's no Jimmy Cliff on here. I had to make room. Everything Jimmy Cliff did was phenomenal. Like the honorable mentions will be a mile long. I didn't even make a list because there's too many. But this band features prominently on that album, and I could have picked one of the songs that they perform on that album, but I had to go with this one just purely for nostalgia. So this is "Take Me Home, Country Roads by Toots and the Maytals.
Nice. Yeah, man.
Right.
He's one of the greats.
Yeah. His voice is so iconic. Like,
Oh,
I
totally.
mentioned Desmond Decker's voice and how smooth his is. Toots's voice is like iconic for the opposite reason. Like he's got that roughness. It's almost like Ronnie Drew from the Dubliners.
Yeah, he puts so much soul into it. He just
Yeah, it has
oh
that
man.
like it breaks and it has that kind of rougher edge to it, but it's still smooth somehow and just
Yeah.
charismatic. Yeah,
Oh man.
I love that song.
So you couldn't get mom into the ska on that one?
No, no, she just wanted to hear the John Denver version.
Uh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, and so that song particularly has like this triple layer, like a layer cake of nostalgia for me because grew up with mom being a huge John Denver fan. So I'd heard that song a million times. And then I heard this version of it, and it's like a song that I already like, played by a band that I love. And then it also turns out that this song is like part of Munich's Oktoberfest culture. And so
The Toots version or the John Denver version?
the John Denver version.
Oh, okay.
And so like all the beer halls, they'll play this song at least once. Everybody sings along. Like the last weekend of Oktoberfest is when all the locals go and they dress up. And so it'll be crowds of like 1,000 people or thousands of people walking down the sidewalk, going towards the subway station. And somebody will start singing this song, and like hundreds of people will sing along to Country Roads Take Me Home. And so, like, kind of that country vibe, and the fact that it's universal, that it's like people from America can identify with it, people from Jamaica can identify with it, people from southern Germany can identify with it. And so, like the lederhosen and dirndl, like the Trachten traditional clothing that people wear to Oktoberfest, like that's kind of like their country clothing.
It's
So,
like cowboy
it's
boots and
practical
cowboy
farmer clothing.
hats or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like hee haw, like overalls and a straw hat.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
down to earth. There's a down to earthness to it. Or
yeah.
like authenticity kind of, even though
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
it's not inauthentic, there's an authenticity. And yeah, same thing with the Jamaican country, like town versus
Yeah,
country. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that movie Countryman.
of course.
Just, yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
me, like
There's no horror.
Toots leans more toward the reggae spectrum for me.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, we got to see so many great reggae bands and Jamaican bands growing up because for some reason they always stopped off in Northern California. I'm not 100% sure why, but you know, even
Yeah.
in small,
A lot of
yeah,
a lot of iconic country and western artists pass through our neck of the woods too. I wonder why.
yeah, somehow they just come to the small towns and spend a little bit of time there as they're on tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, lucky for us.
Yeah. The Emerald Triangle.
All right. So, Country Roads, man, his voice just takes me back.
Yeah.
And then John Denver, of course, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and it's like that song's a little more reggae, but like pressure drop and
Yeah, they're more up tempo. Yeah, I get a lot of nostalgic feelings, but they're not all like good. Like I could listen to the song over and over, but I might need to like get in touch with my therapist afterwards or something.
Fair.
Do you remember that Scout that I had? That I had Peter Tosh, the toughest, was stuck in the tape deck. So like anytime I went anywhere, I was listening to Peter Tosh, the toughest.
Yeah, it's like you can't remember when you have number dyslexia and you're trying to remember the title of a song that doesn't match the lyrics. You can remember the lyrics, but you can't remember the title of the song because they're different.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So yeah, Pressure Drop and 5446, that's my number, are like ska
yeah.
staples. So
Yeah. Cool. Let's see, did we score this one yet?
no, I don't think we have.
I'm gonna give it an 88.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I really like his voice.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody sounds like Toots.
Yeah. So what do you got for Country Roads?
I'll give it a 95.
95. Wow.
Just because I love that song. I love their version of it. It has all this nostalgia for me. It makes me really happy hearing that song.
Yeah, that might get up there.
It's a song about nostalgia. So
I think at the end of the year we'll do like our top 10 ranked songs. We'll do a
okay.
end of the year show.
A shootout.
Yeah, it'd be cool if Country Roads ended up on there.
Totally. Yeah, so this next band, I grew up hearing them because they were part of the two-tone scene, the second wave British ska, but they kind of had a different sound. And like I was getting into ska during the third wave, and there were a lot of bands that were good and that I liked, and then there was a lot of stuff that wasn't my particular cup of tea, but they had this unique sound, and it's definitely ska, but it's different than the stuff that had come before. And so when I re-listened to a lot of this band, it was like, oh, okay, that's where that sound comes from. Like this band kind of turned everything up. It was like a lot more up tempo.
Not as much the traditional type of sound that had come before.
Yeah, and so it's like this band, there was one other band like Madness, kind of had some of the same ingredients, but Madness was more of an experimental band. They had a lot more varied influences and like they would try different things with their songs.
Mm-hmm.
This band pretty much just played this one type of ska that's really up tempo, really infectious, really danceable brand of ska. And so pretty much the whole third wave's sound, or like the iconic third wave sound, comes from these guys. So like all your Skank and Pickle and your early No Doubt and a lot of those bands had this kind of sound, and these guys were the pioneers of that sound.
Cool.
And again, they came out of retirement when I was around 20, so I got to see these guys live, and they were incredible. So this is Lip Up Fatty by Bad Manners. Yeah, so Bad Manners, Slip Up Fatty.
Yeah, that's
What
a
do you
good one
think?
too. It definitely belongs on the list.
Yeah, it's not the greatest song, and it's not even their best song, but it's the most archetypal of that sound to me.
Yeah, those guys not only brought like a different kind of sound from the rest of the two-tone bands, but I think they, instead of the Rude Boy style, they kind of brought like the working class thing with like, the Doc Martens and the suspenders and
Right.
yeah, like I I think they're and the shaved heads. I think they're the ones that kind of introduced that element too.
Yeah, if they didn't
Com-
introduce it, they popularized it.
yeah. Well, there's always that element, but they were like the first ones that were up on stage with that look.
Right. That's true.
Like we're like you, kind of. The people that
Kind
were.
of. Yeah, so again, these guys came out of retirement during the third wave era, and I got to see them live down in Palo Alto. It's a totally epic concert, and I had the shaved head, I had the boots and braces, and so they do a version of the can, and so everybody wearing boots and braces, they pull them up on stage. You form this kick line. So I got to be right next to Buster Blood Vessel. We were both all sweaty, so
Oh man,
got to be in this kick line doing the can with Buster Blood Vessel. It was pretty
classic.
crazy. And yeah, so I think that's one of the punches out of my get into Valhalla sandwich card, like
Uh-huh.
kick line with Buster Blood Vessel. That knocks out one of the squares. So
Oh, another thing about, well, that guy in particular, and it's got to be like one of the first like body positivity songs out there
yeah,
too.
yeah, it's like the live
Yeah.
version. I think it's even on the Dance Craze album and movie. That it's like I'm looking in the audience, and I see a lot more fat people than skinny ones. Nothing wrong with being fat, is there? Nothing wrong. Lip up, fatty.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, ahead of his time.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like when I saw them back in the day, I weighed like 150 pounds. I was a skinny kid up there on stage
Oh man.
dancing. Yeah. Now I'd be much more in the latter camp.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
afraid I would
identify
be
with the
too.
lip up fatty.
Yeah, my knees can't skank anymore. That's for sure.
No, no, I don't think I could do those high kicks anymore.
You'd have to get
The
pretty loosened
can.
up for that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't
Oh
think there's
man.
enough. I don't think I could legally buy enough ibuprofen to do that.
So what do we give Lip Up Fatty by Bad Manners? It's a good song. It's definitely like
Yeah,
not just music for listening. It's like you're gonna dance to this.
yeah,
Like if you're in the room, you're gonna be moving.
yeah. It's like I don't know if we mentioned, but it's like we're sitting down recording this podcast, but like we're bobbing our heads, and it's like this
Yeah.
this beat and this song is so infectious and so positive that it's like you can't sit still listening to this. You're tapping your fingers, you're tapping your toes, you're bobbing your head, you're swinging your elbows.
If you could see the video, we're definitely bobbing on this one. Like
Yeah.
first episode AOR, there's like more fist pumps, but this one is like definitely got the head bob going.
Yep. Yeah. It's just such an infectious beat.
Yeah. Uh
Yeah. And it's like you can't be you can't be sad listening to that song. Like
yeah. Unless you
it's
have a
so
bad
positive.
memory connected to it somehow. Like
That's true.
if your girlfriend broke up with you at the Bad Manners concert or something.
Right. Or like some skinheads beat you up in the parking lot.
Right. So let's see. Lip Up Fatty. I'm gonna give that one an 85. It's got a good beat and you can dance to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like they're one band I never really got into. I mean, I've heard this song. I've heard a couple others, but they're not one that I really like went down the rabbit hole on to like, but like now I'm kind of interested to hear more of their stuff. Like, you know, I probably haven't heard that since the 80s or something.
Right. Yeah, since the Dance Craze movie.
Yeah, I'd be curious to go back and like hear it in real time, like hear some of their other material.
Yeah. Yeah, check out Lorraine. Check out the Can. It's like
Okay.
check out a live version of the Can, like if they're playing it live somewhere.
So what did I say? 85?
Yeah,
85.
I'm giving him an 85 too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like you can't not dance when that song is on.
Yeah, and when I hear it now, I can see that bridge that you're talking about, like how Third Wave was kind of based on this type of sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that it's like, just because I'm not into a lot of those third wave bands doesn't mean I can't appreciate their sound, especially when it's like, oh, well, this is where it came from. Like,
yeah,
these are the ingredients they're cooking with. Like, okay.
Yeah. I think there were traditionalist kind of
that.
I think there were some traditionalist type of third wave bands.
Oh yeah, coming up next.
Okay, the majority of them had that real up tempo, just know, kind of that party kind of sound. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a little like just eating Skittles for dinner, but you know, you can do that every once in a while, I guess.
All right. So are we moving out of two-tone second wave ska now?
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Like when I was making the list, I didn't necessarily put them in order of era. And so like because Bad Manners carved out that third wave sound, I thought it would be a good segue to talk about third wave ska.
Okay.
And so, you know, there were a lot of bands that when I was making this playlist, I re-listened to that didn't end up on the list just because I don't think they're as iconic. But it's like one of the bands that got me into ska was the Toasters and Let's Go Bowling. Let's Go Bowling is fantastic. And there were a lot of bands that had this kind of super up tempo, Bad Manners-y sort of sound. But there was one band that really stood out because they harkened all the way back to like the early Jamaican first wave stuff, which was totally rare. And so,
cool.
Like these guys were enormous at the time. They've been on a couple soundtracks. They've been in a couple of movies. Like, you've probably heard these guys. So this is Bobby and Joe by Hepcat.
Hey, all right. Hepcat with the big beat. Yeah.
They even applaud themselves.
Yeah. It's a party on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are good. They go back to that more traditional kind of sound.
Yeah, they're just right in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I think they were out of LA.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had one of their CDs back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I had all of them. It was peak CD era when those guys were super popular. Yeah, they were part of that whole scene with like early Sublime and No Doubt all those LA ska bands and stuff, but they had a completely different sound, and it was like every time these guys came through the Bay Area, I'd go see them.
Yeah, what do you think about? So, I mean, I might edit this out, but what do you think about some of those other SoCal bands?
I don't know. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just like I like some early No Doubt, but yeah, Sublime is kind of one of those bands like Pink Floyd for me. Like I don't have anything positive to say, so I'm not going to say anything. But like
Okay.
a lot of times, like when the when people would be like, "Oh, you like Rush? Do you also like Pink Floyd?" And it's like, how is that the same thing? And so it was the same thing where it's like, "Oh, you like ska? Do you like Sublime?" And it's like, no,
Yeah. Okay.
and part of that's like the ska elitist thing.
Everybody's got their preferences,
So yeah,
and
they were never
they
my
had a
jam.
different kind of audience or something.
Yeah,
You're never one of those like tribal tattoo guys or anything, or
no,
yeah, or whatever Sublime people were into.
right.
I guess just drinking too much or something.
Yeah, like the singer
Hmm.
died of a heroin overdose and stuff. It's like,
Yeah, that was the '90s. That's what was going on back then.
yeah,
But yeah, still,
true.
yeah, that 27 Club. It's like some people don't age as well going into that.
No.
All right, so Bobby and Joe Hepcat.
Yeah.
How would you score that one? What made you pick that over other Hepcat songs?
It was the song that got me into Hepcat, and like pretty much all of their songs are phenomenal. But that song just kind of encapsulated like it's got the swing to it. It's
Uh huh.
it's just like musically it's really there. Like it's got all the ingredients. It's a beautiful song. It's a story song.
Yeah, I was just going to say that you're talking about the music now, and for me, what was drawing me in was the story the guy was telling. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had two singers with two different voices. And so this is and I can't remember their names, but this is one of this guy's songs, and I love the way his voice like sounds.
Yeah.
Like he's got just so much charm.
Yeah. Harkens back to like what we were talking about with Toots and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So what would you give this one?
I'm gonna have to go pretty high on this one. I'll give it an 86.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give it an 86 too. And this guys could have just been. I think a lot of ska bands were just like frustrated band nerds that like wanted an excuse to drink once they got in college or something, or
Right.
go do something. But these guys really kind of, in my mind, they were kind of at the forefront of bringing back that traditional sound that I prefer.
Yeah. And like not just playing the style of music that was popular at the time, because it's like they could have just been another third wave song band,
Yeah, yeah,
or they could have been like a retro, like two tone second wave band. But it's like they took it all the way back to the roots and like
yeah,
really brought in that Jamaican sound.
yeah. So I think I'll match your 86 on that one.
Cool.
Check them
Yeah, and
out.
it's like if you've never heard these guys, listen to their entire catalog. They're great, and they were ahead of their time too, in many ways. One of their albums is called Right on Time, but they were ahead of their time because they have a whole bunch of songs about Clarence Thomas and
Oh,
what a dirtbag he is.
is this your is this your only third wave band on the list?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. So the only third wave band on the list, but but they sound the most traditional.
Right?
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's what I like.
It's what I like too. What I'm finding that I like.
Yeah, that's like yeah, I'll give some honorable mentions at the end.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what do we got up for song 7?
Yeah, so the next song, going back right back to the middle, because I didn't want to have Bad Manners be the only two-tone era band on here because the third wave and like I wouldn't have gotten into ska if it hadn't have been for two-tone. But it was like I remember hearing it when I was a kid, so it had the nostalgia. All those bands came back around, and like third wave wouldn't have existed if second wave hadn't come. Just a second wave wouldn't have existed if first wave hadn't happened. So I had to add a couple more second wave two-tone era songs on here. And man, it was so hard narrowing it down to just a few. Like I could have done an entire playlist just on two-tone songs,
Oh, sure.
second wave
Yeah.
era. Like, but it's like, they're almost so iconic that it's like, there was a lot of these bands were on like the Ferris Bueller's Day Off soundtrack. Like you've heard all these songs. Like they've been played on the radio. They've been played in TV commercials. Like you've heard all these songs. And so it's like narrowing it down to just a handful was almost impossible. But it came down to okay, like the specials are fantastic. Like everything they did was like iconic. But they had a lot of songs that weren't technically ska. They were more kind of R&B or almost new wave or like little shoegazery.
Kind of like what Madness was doing at the time. And
Yeah, they were a little more varied. And it's like I could have picked any of their songs. I could have picked any Madness song, any song from Selector. Like, it. If I put 3 Minute Hero on this playlist, I would have had to include everything else too. So it was like, okay, what's like the one song where like thinking back to when I was like 8 years old, what's one of the two-tone songs that I remember as a child
uh-huh.
hearing? And this was top of the list there. So were you going to add something?
I was just going to say, because of the size of ska bands, you have so many. There's no
Right.
3-piece ska bands. Well, except for Sublime. But yeah, like since you have so many band members, you're going to have, just by sheer numbers, you're going to have more influences come in and more people wanting to do different things. And I think that's why the specials, for example, had so many like spin-off bands too,
Right.
just because, yeah, there was so many different influences and such a bigger band just to begin
Right.
with.
Yeah, I think even Op Ivy was a 4-piece, weren't they?
I can't remember. I think so.
I think there were 4 guys. Yeah.
Yeah, we played with them.
Really?
We played with those guys a few times
Nice.
back in the day.
Nice.
A barn party up in
Legend.
Healdsburg, I think.
Nice. Yeah, talk about crafting an iconic sound. They were the ground zero of that ska punk.
Yeah, they were like the cool guys that like dressed nice. and like drove like nice old Ford Falcons, and they all had pretty girlfriends that also dressed nice, you know,
Mhm.
and like, yeah, we were just like a dirt bag punker band, you know, playing some barn party. They also had the good
Yeah.
looking girls that would like just ignore us.
That was kind of one of the reasons I got into ska.
Yeah, there is that.
There was kind of that like cute punk rocker, cute rockabilly, cute goth, like crossover nexus. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of pretty girls that listen to ska. Anyway, uh,
Yeah, I remember that. I'd get tired of dancing. Me and Sean was really into all the two-tone stuff. And we went to go
right.
see the Untouchables. I think we went to go see them in Davis or something. So it's like a college town in the late 80s.
Mm.
Yeah, just all these like, you get tired of dancing. There's just all these cute girls to like check out. But also for me, like, that was kind of a crossover thing at that time because Untouchables were headlining, but 24/7 Spies opened for them. And to
Right.
me, you know, like being a rocker and into 70s funk and stuff, it's like, to me, that was more interesting. I mean,
Mhm.
Untouchables were fun, but to me, like 24/7 Spies was like, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Right.
Anyways.
But yeah, you were talking about the like the bigger bands,
Uh-huh.
and so uh, I've never seen. I've seen all the guys from this band and the Specials, but never as this band and the Specials.
Uh,
Like I saw General Public, and I saw every iteration except for the two original bands.
oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's kind of awesome because they were a lot of the bands that formed out of those two bands were blends of those two bands. So you'd go see them live and they'd play all their new stuff. Oh, Fine Young Cannibals was another one. And
Uh,
so they play all their new stuff and then they'd be like, well, let's play a couple Specials hits and a couple English beat hits. And so it's like you'd go and you'd kind of get this like super group where it's like you
yeah.
get to hear all their new stuff and like the greatest hits
The
from two of
greatest
these great
hits.
bands. So it was just like,
Yeah.
yay.
Nice.
So yeah, without further ado, this is Ranking Full Stop by the English Beat.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
My my memory banks just opened.
right? That song will do that to you.
Hold on. I didn't think I was a ska fan, but I think I'm a lot bigger ska fan than I let on. I just
Uh-huh.
forgot.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
When so yeah, I was into the two-tone stuff, but our older sister Cena is the one that was really into this stuff. I was into like in the early 80s, I was into like pop locking and breaking and whatever. And I was really into
Right.
like some of the ska moves and stuff too. So we were still in high school. I'm younger than Cena. So I did a lot of things because mom and dad wouldn't let Cena do stuff unless I went with her.
Uh-huh.
So I got to see a lot of concerts because Cena wanted to go. And it was stuff I never heard of. So I got turned on to the punk rock and I got turned on to this stuff from Cena because if she wanted to go, mom and dad would only let her if I went with her.
Right.
And she was dating a guy who was going to college and he was into ska big time. and he put on a thing at the state college called Camp Ska. They would do Camp Ska dances at Sonoma State, and she was dating the guy that
Right.
was putting them on. And so I would go with her and I would DJ at these things. I'd help him DJ. And so this was one of those songs I would play because it's got that stop and everybody would freeze,
Yeah.
you know? And then we'd like mix in like some old school rap in there too. You know, like
Nice.
back when rap was like polite and stuff and it was all MCs and
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, some Sugar Hill Gang and
Yeah. So these dances
Yeah.
were super fun because it's all like old school rap and two-tone. And like I was probably 15 or something.
uh-huh.
So I'm like DJing this dance for these college kids and like helping them with the records and like putting on this song, putting on that song. And
Nice.
I forgot all about Camp Ska. How weird.
Yeah. I think it's still a thing. Like UB40 just played there last month.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think that guy might be a professor there now.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Maybe
Yeah,
not, but
maybe not. Yeah.
yeah, that was the two-tone era song that I remember from back then, from when I was, you were 15 and I was what, that would have made me 7? No, 8. Yeah, like I said, 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that was that time. That was on heavy rotation at the house.
yeah, heavy rotation. And it's like I remember that song, and like I remember where it was like, because Rankin Roger was one of the singers, but he wasn't Dave Wakeling. And
Yeah.
like Dave Wakeling was kind of their main singer. Like he did all the like Blue Eyed Soul kind of their vocals for them.
Yeah.
But like Rankin Roger was like the MC and like the the pick it up man.
Yeah. And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so it was like that guy brought to the forefront, like he's the lead singer now, and or for this song. And so it's
Yeah.
like it was always like, okay, like they're gonna play this like kind of slower ballady, Dave Wakeling's gonna sing, and then it's like this was their song when like everybody gets tired of kind of just like doing a little kind of slow skank, and it's like, well, we gotta pick up the energy, like let's let's play this song. And it's like, they play this song, everybody's dancing, and because it's like it's such a fun song, and it's like the two things I remember from being a kid were it's like it's the first time I was introduced to like a building song where it's like, you start out with like it's his vocals and he says, "Rhythm come forward." The rhythm starts and then they start building all the different layers of the song. And then so it was like the first time I heard a song like that, and it's like audience participation. And
Yeah.
so it's like, you know, you can't not dance to this song. And then it's like he's telling you how to dance. Like,
Yeah.
like you're part of this. Like we're all doing this together. So it was like, holy moly. Like what a song.
Yeah. I always liked the MC stuff. Like we went to see the Studio One band at the Cabaret. And so they'd have the band backing everybody up, and then they have like a singer come up. But they had like Freddie McGregor, and they had I totally loved them, Michigan and Smiley. And
Mhm.
like that was one of that concert was like something that really I was super into at the time. Michigan and Smiley. That or the toasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember any I'd know them if I heard them, but I don't remember English beat songs that weren't Rankin Roger, because that's what you would play for people to dance to.
Yeah, well, like, Mirror in the Bathroom.
Yeah.
That one's really up tempo too. But like,
Yeah, that's a good one too.
yeah, they had some ballad or like more ballady kind of songs, like some slower ones.
Yeah.
I could look it up, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
Cool. I got to give that one like a 95.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's
I'll
good.
go. Yeah, I'll also give it a 95. I want to go higher,
Cool.
but yeah,
Well, that's 3 less than topping out.
I know.
I just might be the eye of the tiger of ska.
Maybe.
but it can't be. But yeah.
Yeah, because like, yeah, there's so many different like kinds of ska.
There is no one song. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah, but it's like that one comes pretty close to just like, you know, everybody's either had that or heard that song or should have heard that song.
Yeah, it always ended up on the turntable at a party.
Yeah, it's like there's two kinds of people in this world: people who have heard Rankin Full Stop, and people who should hear Rankin Full Stop.
Yeah. We should like push to make it like one of those wedding songs, that gets played at weddings. So like everybody gets a chance to hear it.
Yeah, so if any of you listeners are getting married, highly recommend English Beat, Rankin Full Stop.
Get your family dancing to that.
Yeah, don't do the chicken dance or, the hokey pokey or.
Or yeah, what's that Isley Brothers song that's at every wedding? Is it Shout?
Oh, yeah. Turn your head
Yeah.
around and shout.
So
Yeah.
so I'm petitioning right now, all you listeners. If you're getting married or know somebody is getting married, instead of having the DJ play Shout at the wedding, play Ranking Full Stop instead. Let's
Right.
let's kind of initiate some change in the world. Not that I'm not knocking the Isley Brothers, but
No, not at all.
we need more Rankin Full Stop.
Yeah. If you don't want to do that song instead of Shout, like instead of playing At Last as your first dance, like that's what everybody does. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, okay, they're playing At Last. Yeah, it's the same as every other wedding I've ever been to. You play Rankin Full Stop as your first dance as a couple, people are going to remember your wedding.
Yeah. Put it on TikTok and hashtag Hear Me Out Bro podcast.
We'll never see it.
Okay, so we both gave that a 95. It might end up on our top 10.
Not mad at that.
I won't hate that. Yeah. So what do we got up as our last song on the ska edition?
All right. So I mean there are hundreds of songs that could have ended up as my last pick. I could have left this song off, but this is actually one of my favorite two-tone era songs or two-tone era bands. I don't know. They weren't one of the big three, but they were there. I don't think they even ever had an album. I think they just had a couple singles.
Huh.
And so, I mean, you could definitely call them one of the lesser knowns if you want to keep that part of the podcast. But it was like I loved this band. They were so great. And this is one of the ones I never got to see live. And they never reformed. They could have. I would have gone to see them. It's another cover song. There's an earlier version of it that almost made it on the list, but it's like, no, I got to save that song. I have to save it for the Body Snatchers. So this is "Let's Do Rock Steady" by the Body Snatchers.
Cool. Body Snatchers.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see why they weren't one of the top 3 two-tone bands. And they're a little rough around the edges,
Yeah.
but it'd still be fun to go see them.
Yeah, it's like they just had that sound, and they always had a good sound. I mean, I think they only have like 6 songs out there. At least I've only ever heard 6 of their songs. Like, I don't think they ever put an album out. I think it was all just singles and B-sides.
Could be. Yeah, they're not the top 3, but like nobody would look at you funny if you had a Body Snatcher sticker on your scooter.
Right.
So,
and like one of the things I wanted to bring up was like when Amy Winehouse got really popular. Like she got really popular for that Rehab song.
uh-huh.
And it's like she had an amazing voice. And I saw her do like a live concert thing, or like I guess it wasn't a live concert. It was like a studio kind of like session thing that was being filmed. And she played like a bunch of old like first wave ska and some two-tone stuff, including a Body Snatchers song. And it was like,
Oh, cool.
I did the Leonardo DiCaprio like snap and point, that it was like, yeah, see, because everybody thought her like iconic hairstyle was like a throwback to Motown, but
No.
it was like, yeah, it's not really Motown. And then it was like when I heard her do a Body Snatchers song, it was like she has the same hairstyle that Rhoda from the Body Snatchers had. Like she's a two-tone rude girl. Like that's where her hairstyle's from.
Got it.
It was like holy cow. Yeah, and everybody that was with me was like, mm, yeah, okay. I'm like, come on, dude. Look.
Connect the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pin the red yarn.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so Let's Do Rock Steady by the Body Snatchers. For me, it's a little rough on the musicianship,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fun. It does the thing.
Yeah. I also like that it's got has some of the MC stuff. Like she names out some of the band members,
Yeah.
and which is kind of cool. Kind of got a Bob Wills vibe.
Bob Wills vibe. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I might give him like a 60.
Okay.
I mean, a 59 would be too low.
Yeah, come on, they're better than that.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I'll go 60.
Okay.
That's probably too low, but just yeah, it didn't do as much for me as some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go 70.
Cool.
For kind of the same reason. Like they're not quite as iconic, but like I love that band. I love that song. It always makes me happy when I hear it.
So that's the full list, huh? Do you have any honorable mentions that we need to talk about?
Yeah, so honorable mentions, like I've said it a couple times, like just search for Trojan Records. There are a ton of different artists that they recorded. They're all really good. A lot of great music came out of Jamaica in the 60s.
That's Trojan. That's Trojan Records. Don't just search for Trojan.
No.
Yeah, Trojan Records, Jamaica.
Yeah, I won't talk about how they have like a Corinthian helmet as their logo. This isn't a military history podcast either.
Okay.
Yeah, so just search for Trojan Records. Like they'll have a ton of playlists. They're all really good. If you've never heard the Harder They Come soundtrack, it's phenomenal. Some of it's reggae, some of it's rocksteady, some of it's like some of it's ska. It's all really good. Look up if you can find a video copy. Like I think there's a version on YouTube that's decent quality of Dance Craze.
Yeah, that really captured the two-tone scene.
Yeah. And so or again, just look up Two Tone Records.
Yeah, Dance Craze is like the decline of the Western civilization of ska, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it took this slice of what was happening at the time. And then for third wave, the Toasters are really good. The Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. They're they're not they're not my favorite, but they're listenable. Let's Go Bowling, it's fantastic. I really like their stuff. I've seen them probably a dozen times. Yeah,
Cool.
those are my honorable mentions. Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm just going to mention them because the first time I saw them, they were pretty much a ska band. I got to give a shout out to Fishbone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Saw them on their, like, when their first record first came out. It was a KVRE party at, like, radio hosted party. So it cost $1 and a penny to get in. Me, Cena, and David Fox went. And it cost us $1 and a penny to get in to see Fishbone on like their debut kind of little mini
Wow.
tour of California or whatever. And there's not a whole lot of people there. And it was mind blowing. I mention them because they do ska, but there's so much bigger than that. You know, like some of their later heavy stuff is like I listened to incessantly through the 90s.
Oh, me too.
But I got to throw them in as a ska band because they definitely do that too.
Yeah, their first album was solid. Like they were even a bit early for third wave,
Yeah, for sure.
but they definitely have that like third wave kind of sound.
Yeah, they were probably in the underground of what third wave grew out of. So yeah. But yeah, Fishbone and the musicianship's just like top notch.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think that might have been the first mosh pit I was ever in. Was
Oh, really?
Fishbone at the Phoenix.
Oh man. I think I went to that with you. That was like uncomfortably loud too.
Yeah.
It's like one of the louder concerts I've been to.
Yeah, I can't say the same. I saw Valiant Thor, Sludge, and Motorhead. And that was the last time I went to a concert without earplugs.
Yeah, that'll teach you.
It was like, instead of having like fuzzy, kind of ringy ears for the ride home.
Or like feeling it like your head's underwater just a little bit or something.
Yeah. It was like several days. And I was like, I lost something that I'm never gonna get back.
Yeah. There's probably a little bit of permanence to that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys who not only brings earplugs for me to every concert, I bring like spare cheapy earplugs to give away to anyone who doesn't have them and wants them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
I think
yeah,
that Fishbone concert might have been the first that I went to where they had like all the subs. So the bass was just like
yeah, I
super
remember that.
powerful. Yeah. It was like uncomfortably loud, but not like, yeah, not metal loud, but like, I mean, they were doing metal at that point in time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was at the Phoenix, which isn't the biggest place.
Right. Yeah. So Fishbone. Yeah. Another band worth checking out that comes from the ska family tree.
For sure.
Cool. Does that wrap it up then?
I think so. So, did I convince you that you're a ska lover?
You like unsealed some like latent memories that made me realize that yes, I am indeed a
Yeah,
ska fan and I will profess it to the world.
fantastic. Mission accomplished.
You won me over. Yeah. Cool.
No, I just reawakened you.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you awakened
your inner ska
what
fan
was
was sleeping.
it was dormant.
Yep.
Yeah, it entered a period of dormancy, which is now unleashed for a while. Cool.
So, what's up next week? For what's up for the next podcast?
Next week is going to be my turn. It's not some it might be a little bit of convincing for you because like when people hear about Woodstock, they think like flower power and the hippie stuff and
Right.
the whole thing that was Woodstock and
Bunch of naked, muddy people.
right, the whole boomer thing and stuff. But like most of what people know about Woodstock is from the movie and the soundtrack. But there was a lot of stuff that went down at Woodstock that is unsung. So like next week we're going to hear about unsung Woodstock. The bands that you may or may not have known that actually played there and the type of sounds that were happening at that point in time when it wasn't just all peace and love, man. And
Right.
so I'm going to share Unsung Woodstock, the lesser known bands and sets that actually happened at the Woodstock Festival.
So, not Jimi Hendrix playing the national anthem, and not Country Joe and the Fish.
Not
So those
Santana,
have been covered.
not Joan Baez, not Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
All right.
yeah. No 10 years after. It's all good stuff. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but there was stuff that I'm way more into.
But the unsung stuff.
Right. If I had known as a kid that those bands had played there, like I would have had that much more of a jump start on really loving these certain bands. So,
Right. Okay. Might not be the hardest sell for me because I appreciate like the hidden gem kind of thing, or like, the stuff that's not in your face, that it hasn't been pushed upon you.
yeah, the stone that hasn't really been kicked over yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's a part of history. It's like looking back at history and something that I like about old music is that there's a history of what coulda, woulda, shoulda been, you know?
Right.
That could be a whole lot more interesting than what is out there, in the common knowledge of everyday culture, I guess. So,
Right.
and that'll be a recurring theme, I think, for us on here. Just like
Cool.
taking a look back and like maybe kicking a few rocks over that you might not have noticed before.
I like it.
All right. So I guess we'll sign out and we'll drop another episode next week.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good week, and keep listening. And drop us an email if you got any memories that pop up or things you want to share.
Nice.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Checking out music with my bro. Will it dig it? Yes or no? Here we go on with the show. The Hell Bro Podcast.
What do you do after you repeatedly drop something?
What?
You pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Nice.
What's the difference between a bull and a ska band?
I don't know what.
The bull has the horns in the front and the in the back.